Hey everyone, this is Stephanie O'Brien. I'm here with Michele Vilseck, and today we're going to be talking about how to make marketing and sales fun through speaking. I know speaking can be a big fear for some people. Some people even rate public speaking above the fear of death when it comes to what they're afraid of. So I'm looking forward to sharing these strategies for making it fun, even for people who might be nervous around it. So thank you very much for joining me, Michele.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me, Stephanie.
Hi, you're very welcome. So what would you say are some of the things that make speaking scary and not fun for people, and how can they overcome that?
Yeah, great question. So, a lot of people that I work with actually they love teaching, they love sharing their message, right? I think, especially as entrepreneurs, we have a message. Each of us is like, oh, I have these specific experiences and the specific message that I have that I want to share with other people. That's why we start our business in the first place, is because we want to change lives. And so many people that I work with are like, oh, I just love teaching. And whenever we think of speaking, the first thing that comes to mind is like that huge stage that you're in front of thousands of people and you're the one, and it just is a little bit scary. But what I like to tell people is that speaking can be so many different things. Like right now, we're having a conversation, we're speaking on a podcast, you're speaking on your platform, or you can have a network party where you're meeting other people, so it can be either a virtual or an in-person stage, whatever stage really fits for you. But I really think so. I think one of the things that scares people is just feeling like, oh, I have to do it a certain way, and that certain way is scary. And then the other thing too, I I think is just that we're afraid of what other people are going to say or what they're going to think about us whenever we're up there. And whenever I was in high school, actually all the way up to high school, I was super, super shy, super introverted. When the teacher called on me, I would just turn beet red. Like that's how bad I was. And I remember at that time, well, I finally just realized, that it's not something that's like wrong with me or something that's ingrained into my personality that I can't change. It's just a skill and I'm just shy. And so I just made a commitment that day that anytime anyone asked a question, I was going to raise my hand and answer. And so I started doing that, and I don't know what happened, but now I'm just like, oh, then after a while, it just became so easy to speak up. And so I guess for all of you introverts out there as well, that in being introverted just means that you take your energy from being alone and from making sure that you have plenty of that alone time opportunity to refill your cup. But really, anyone can get past their fear of speaking by going out there and doing it, or by really, we don't have time to do it all on this podcast, but, there's maybe some traumas or past experiences, obviously, too, that we kind of need to work through to get out there. But it's really worth it because you do have a message that matters and you want to get it out there to people, and people are ready and waiting to hear it.
Now that's great advice. And I love how you shared like how you committed to just doing something. You didn't expect get to it with the expectation of it having to be perfect. You didn't, commit that I'm going to answer perfectly every time. You just said I'm going to have to answer. Now, like we were saying to each other before this interview started, just earlier today, I tried to get interviewed and Facebook said no, it wouldn't let me on the live. And you know what? Even though we spent 45 minutes fighting with this, nobody died, nobody's business failed, nobody got mad at us for having technical difficulties. So even if you try and don't do it perfectly, it's not the end of the world. If anything, it kind of makes me more relatable because when I see someone boasting about how they built the business perfectly from the start and had no struggles, it's not relatable to me. And it doesn't make me think they can solve my problem or even understand my problem.
And we know that they're lying. They are
Probably.
absolutely 100% lying when they say that. Well, and you make a great point too, that it's just like a little thing that you're not expected to do it right. And I think I work with a lot of speakers who do like to speak. They like to speak. Then they're like, speaking's fun and teaching's fun. And I just want to get on more stages and I want to use that because that's the thing that's really fun. And I know for me, whenever I jumped into my business, then I started doing marketing and sales this way, the right way, and what the right way was, bother people in their messenger chat, and I just really did not resonate with that. It was very frustrating. And my coaches are like, well, just keep trying, just keep trying. And I tried that in one form and another for so many, like 2 full years before I was finally like, look, I cannot do that anymore. Okay. That's what everyone was telling me to do. And I'm like, I want it to be fun again. And so that's really when I rediscovered speaking, and I'm like, oh, I can go out there and share something. I can share my message, and that's my marketing. I can share my message in a certain way, and that becomes my sales. And so then everything that I do became fun again. And back to your point of, yeah, just not doing it doesn't have to be right. What I do with my clients and anyone who comes to my network event, I say, hey, this is where we're going to start. We're going to start with partner stages, just like you and I, Stephanie, like, hey, let's just jump on each other's profile. Then, okay, maybe people see you and it doesn't work out, but it's kind of, it's a low level. You're just starting with these small groups, and then you can just really work your way up from there.
Yeah, that makes sense. I love the point you made about it having to be fun. Yeah, I've had situations where I signed up for a coaching program. I committed to doing the work, but I hated the method so much. I struggled to bring myself to do it. I kept letting the time I'd allotted to do it get eaten up by other things. As one of my mentors online pointed out, it all works. Ads, speaking, SEO, content marketing, all this, it all works. The important thing is you find something that works for you. You find something that you enjoy enough and are willing to get good enough at that you can actually stick with it and get results from it. And if you're not having fun, you're not going to show up as well anyway. So, a lot of your energy is going to be wasted on it.
Oh, 100%. And like I say that all the time too. It works. It works. And what you said is just like if you stick with it, it's just a skill stack, right? There's a certain amount of skills that you need to make it work. And then if you're committed to learning those skills and refining those skills and figuring out the nuances or hiring a coach to help you, then eventually you're going to get there. And if it's, again, if it's fun, you're going to stick with it. You're going to show up, and it's going to be energizing instead of energy sucking, which we do not
Yeah.
like.
So how do you help people to choose which stage is right for them and fun for them and conducive to the type of business they want to have?
Yeah, that's great. I would say first we really the first step that I do with all of my clients is really help them. It's called get in position, but it's really helping them understand, you know, what is their unique voice? What's your unique message? What's your unique voice? What are the things that you love to do? And then where do you want to take that? Some people, they just want to use speaking online and they just want to make recorded videos. They don't even want to go live, right? Like, and other people are like, I want to be that $1 billion babe who's up there on the stage and in front of thousands of live people. So it just really, we really just want to focus in on, what are your goals? What's your message? What are your goals? And also, what are you going to do for people whenever you get off that stage? I think a lot
Oh
of
yeah.
people, you want to start with the end in mind, and a lot of people are like, okay, let me just get on stages, but if my offer is to help people, I'm trying to think of a good example, but right, like, so my offer is to help people learn how to speak and use that speaking to sell their coaching and their other programs and their make money, right? And if I know that, then I'm not gonna, that's going to eliminate certain places that I go, right? Because I'm not going to be talking to people who just want to like give a speech at a wedding or something, right? Like that's not what my offer is. I can still go there and people can still get something out of what I'm saying, but I'm going to want to talk to people who have a business and who want to sell something after they're done with the stage. So same thing with you. It's like, what are you going to sell them afterwards whenever you're done on that stage? Not that everybody doesn't have to buy your thing, but of the people who do want to come and buy your thing, do you have something for them? So
Yeah, it's so important to know what your goal is. And, I was actually on Podapalooza yesterday, and one of the
oh
speakers was
yeah.
talking about how important it is to actually know what your goal is when you're speaking, and to, measure the results of your speaking by that goal, not by the number of likes or clicks or downloads or whatever, but by, for example, you can use speaking to get the door open by, having people on your platform, having them speak. You can exchange speaking engagements, and thus, get more appointments than you otherwise would if you were just popping in to sell them. You could use it to get more clients. So yeah, it's so important to know what is the actual metric you should use to gauge your success, and that'll help you to both pick the right stages, pick the right things to say on that stage, and to pick the right next steps, to invite people to at the end of that speech.
Yes, 100%. And for me, one of the goals that I always have that also makes it fun is service. Like, I just want to serve the pants off of everybody. Like, if I just give them so much, then whoever my people are, they're going to want to work with me, right? And if you give your people so much, then they're going to want to work with you. And I think so for me, I like to say whenever you're speaking, every single time, your goal is to help them make a decision. Whoever your
Absolutely.
audience is, you're there to motivate them, you're there to give them great stuff, but really you're there to help them make a decision. And that decision is to take another step towards their goal. So whatever my speech is, it's like, what decision am I there to help them make right now? And then I'm building around that as well in a way that's really serving them.
Which brings me to a really good question because I've actually been in a position I recently had to revamp a whole 3 day challenge I had because one bad habit that I had, and I think a lot of our listeners might very well have, is serving people so much in the free thing, but in the wrong ways that they, then you overstuff them on appetizers and then you try and sell them the main course and they don't actually get the main course because they're already overstuffed. So, do you help your clients to find that balance between giving them really good service, quick wins, making it worth their while to attend the speech, but also, making those clients hungry enough that they realize that they need your next step and they don't go off half-cocked thinking they have everything they need, but they don't.
Yes. Yes. Oh my goodness. This is such a good question that I get a lot. And a lot of people ask me, I don't know if you've heard other people say this, teach the what, but not the how, right? So there is this conflict, especially being someone that is impact driven or heart centered. You want to serve people so much. And so there is
Yeah,
this question about like, ooh, can I serve them too much? Or how am I serving them in the wrong way? How does that work? And what I realized for what it does for people is whenever you're asking and you're worried about that, it's a completely terrible energy whenever
yeah.
you're on the event because you want to give, but you're holding back and it's all very confusing. So the way that I kind of reframe it to help you understand what you need to say is really we need to focus our attention on the right things. So basically, people are asking the wrong question when they're saying, how much should I give? Am I serving too much or am I serving in the wrong way? The real question that we should be asking again is like, is that decision, that transformation? So really, whenever I go onto an event, I ask myself, who do I want them to be when I'm done speaking with them?
Like that.
Right? Who do I want them to be? Because really, I've been reading The Go-Giver recently, and it's talking about how, laws of success. And then the number one law of success is your worth is determined by how much you give in value, how much more you give in value than you receive in payment. And the highest level of value is actually identity. If you can shift someone's identity, that is giving them the most value whatsoever. So a lot of times when we get on events, we think, oh, I need to teach them this, or I need to show them that, or I'm going to give them all this stuff. But the reality is they're not going to do all that stuff until they are the person that does that stuff.
I don't think I've ever heard that perspective before. That is really interesting, and I think it's a good point. If they see themselves as the person who needs to do it on their own, or if they see themselves as the person who can't do it, then yeah, they're probably not going to take action on their offer. So, what kind of do you have any specific tips you can give for helping people to shift their audience's identity?
Yes, yeah. So it's really which ones shall I give you before I overwhelm you? I think overall, I have a framework that I teach my speakers that really helps them shift their identity and answer the questions that they're asking ahead of time. But really, number one, it's about helping you give them the identity. That's number one, which most people don't do. Most people don't think about identity, so you don't give them the identity, right? But for so one hot tip that a lot of people don't do is to set up two identities, the one that you don't want to be versus the one that you want to be, right? So struggling entrepreneur versus successful entrepreneur. Or I used to teach a fine, I used to do poor me and me, like poor me and $1 million me, right? Or I try to think of anyways, something like that. So you're kind of just building up this contrast of here's who most of you probably are. You're not saying that right now, but you're like, oh, here's all the mistakes that this poor me makes these mistakes. Poor me thinks about things like this, right? Poor me keeps keeps posting on Messenger, thinking that that's actually going to make a difference and not realizing that's totally sucking the energy out of me. And then the $1 million me is the one that knows what they're doing. They're in alignment. They're all these things, right? And so I've got these two identities that I set up at the beginning. And as I'm telling my stories and I'm teaching my stuff, I'm referring back to them with my stories. And then as the event goes on, your audience is identifying with this person that you've set up that everybody wants to be. Like, who wants to be a highly paid inspirational speaker? That's what I say with my people. And they're like, oh, so it's like, you can be a loser speaker. No, I'm just kidding. Or you can do this. And highly paid speakers do this. They get on stages regularly. They aren't afraid to speak. They blah, blah, blah. And then the whole time you're like, yes, 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 yes. And they're moving forward. And anyways, and then there's other things, of course, you got to do with them. But that's probably the biggest one, is just really knowing who you want them to be. And then you're leaning them that direction this whole time.
Well, that is brilliant. Like I said, that's a perspective I don't think I've ever heard from anyone before. So I knew something new today, and I hope everyone listening to this did too. So we're just about at the end of the time we had for this. So I want to ask if somebody wants to learn more about this, more about how to choose the right stages, more about how to have fun with those stages, more about how to shift their audience's identity and inspire their audience to buy from them. What's the best way to connect with you and to and what are those first steps?
Yeah, great. Thank you for asking. And again, thank you so much for having me on, Stephanie. I know
Oh, you're
it was like
welcome.
last minute, and she has just been impromptu rocking this thing. So I just want to give you a big round of applause for that.
Well, thank you.
So there's a couple different ways. One is I have a speaker network party where speakers and stages come together, and you have an opportunity on that party to get booked at these neighbor stages. Specifically, we have podcasters, summit hosts, other people with stages in there that come. And my number one goal is just for you to get out there and speak. So you get connected with people who can book you on neighbor stages. So you can go to inspirespeakernetwork.com, and that's the RSVP for that. And then if you're like, hey, how do you help me? And you really want to know, like, how do I help people? How do I walk them through it? I just have a short video that you can grab and just kind of walks you through, hey, this is the process that I use to walk my clients through. And I can drop the link for that as well.
Absolutely. So for those watching this, whether you're watching on, depending on whether you're watching on YouTube, on my blog, or on social media, it'll be either in the description, in the blog post, or in the links with the post itself. So it'll be covered.
Fantastic.
Awesome. So any final tips you want to share before we head off?
Yeah, I just want to speak, whether you love speaking or not, however you do your thing out there, I just wanted to give some encouragement that you really do have a message that matters, and your experiences, they're unique to you and they make a difference. And there really are people out there that are only going to hear the message from you in the specific way that you give it. So if you're feeling frustrated or you're like, oh, is this really working? I'm going in circles. Just remember that we need you really badly right now. We need more light. We need more joy in the world. So don't give up. Your message, it matters.
That is beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing that. And I hope you have an amazing day. I hope everyone listening to this has an amazing day too.
Awesome.
All right, everyone, get out there and shine.